Dear fellow INFJ.
INFJs feel so much they draw very clear lines around their emotional well-being. In calm, reflective tones, let's explore 10 things INFJs simply will not tolerate, each grounded in psychological insight about empathy, introversion, and sensitivity. 1. Superficiality and inauthenticity. INFJs yearn for real, heartfelt conversation, not empty small talk. Psychology research shows that introspective people prefer meaningful conversations and feel drained by surface-level chit-chat. Likewise, INFJs are triggered by superficial or phony behavior. Being around fake or disingenuous people frustrates an INFJ deeply. Ratna Srivastava notes INFJs value deep, meaningful connections and are triggered by superficial interactions. In short, insincerity is intolerable. INFJs refuse to play roles or waste energy on small talk that lacks purpose. They simply won't pretend, and research confirms they'd rather be quiet than engage in anything less than an authentic exchange. This is because their inner world is rich, complex, and sacred, a sanctuary they fiercely protect from anyone who doesn't share their commitment to depth and authenticity. 2. Conflict and constant drama. INFJs are peace-loving and need harmony to feel safe. Ongoing arguments or tension leave them emotionally exhausted. As one INFJ blogger puts it, conflict, arguments, or unresolved tensions can be deeply distressing to them. Their empathic nature means they absorb others' bad vibes, so constant conflict feels like a personal attack. In fact, INFJs often avoid confrontation even when it's necessary, preferring harmony over fighting. A barrage of insults or loud disputes is simply not something they'll tolerate. Research on introverts and sensitivity shows that high arousal conflict situations overwhelm them, so INFJs draw a firm line. Endless drama and hostility are off limits. To an INFJ, a peaceful, respectful environment is vital for their mental and emotional health. 3. Dishonesty and manipulation. INFJs have a sixth sense for truth. Their dominant introverted intuition means they often spot when others are lying or scheming. This uncanny ability to read motives makes deceit especially intolerable. Studies of personality show that people with high intuition and empathy become attuned to others' true feelings and intentions, so an INFJ will refuse to tolerate being fooled or used. Any form of emotional manipulation, whether sly deception or brazen lying, is a red flag. They trust their gut and act on it, so dishonesty strikes them as a profound betrayal of the authentic connection they seek. An INFJ might endure this behavior briefly, but in the long run, they'll withdraw from people who can't be honest. 4. Being taken advantage of. By nature, INFJs give freely of themselves, but they will not allow others to abuse that generosity. Because they put others' needs first, sometimes too much, it can happen that insensitive people misinterpret this kindness as weakness. INFJ coach Becky Green warns that less sensitive individuals may misinterpret your helpfulness as weakness and take advantage. In relationships or friendships, an INFJ quickly loses patience with one-sided demands. They may have listened to friends for hours, only to find no support in return. Psychological insights on empathy note that very altruistic people, high in empathic concern and agreeableness, often sacrifice their own needs. Eventually, INFJs refuse to let this continue. Being used or having their boundaries trampled is something they absolutely won't tolerate. While INFJs are often soft-spoken and compassionate, their inner strength means they will not accept being walked on or taken for granted. 5. Overstimulation and lack of alone time. As sensitive introverts, INFJs can't handle constant noise, crowds, or pressure to socialize nonstop. Neuroscientific research on highly sensitive persons, HSPs, a trait common in INFJs, shows they become emotionally exhausted in highly stimulating environments. For example, a busy party or a loud workplace can leave an INFJ drained and overwhelmed. One HSP guide notes that certain stimulating environments, especially public places, left the sensitive person feeling drained. INFJs treasure their quiet time. They recharge alone and process the world internally. If others constantly ignore this need, say by forcing social events or making incessant demands on their time, INFJs will push back. They may politely but firmly refuse invitations or withdraw to protect their energy. In other words, an environment that insults an INFJ's need for peace and solitude is intolerable. 6. Harsh criticism and insensitivity. INFJs feel words very deeply, so thoughtless criticism cuts to the core. Personality analysts note that INFJs often experience criticism more intensely than others. Even a hint of frustration or disappointment can trigger self-doubt in a sensitive INFJ. Research on sensory and emotional sensitivity confirms this. People who score high on introversion and empathy, like INFJs, pick up on subtle negative cues and can be deeply hurt by them. Thus, INFJs refuse to tolerate rude, harsh, or callous feedback. They need people to approach them gently and thoughtfully. In fact, many INFJs will withdraw if confronted with unkindness rather than respond aggressively, but long-term, they simply cannot stand being treated without compassion or understanding. Thus, being treated insensitively is a deal breaker in relationships and situations for these empathic personalities. 7. Injustice and cruelty. Because INFJs care intensely about people's feelings, they have little patience for unfairness or meanness. Research shows that people high in empathy, especially cognitive empathy and empathic concern, are highly sensitive to injustice. In other words, when someone is being treated unfairly or a situation feels morally wrong, INFJs can react strongly. They often champion the underdog and have a fierce moral compass. This means cruelty, bullying, or any form of unjust behavior is intolerable. It violates the values INFJs hold dear. Studies in social neuroscience suggest that perspective-taking and caring for others drive sensitivity to justice, traits that describe INFJs. So if they see someone being mistreated or truth being twisted to harm others, INFJs will stand up firmly and refuse to condone it. In short, witnessing injustice or cruelty against any person is something INFJs will not tolerate. Their strong convictions make it difficult for them to remain silent in the face of unfairness. 8. Gaslighting and emotional manipulation. INFJs prize emotional truth and clarity, so psychological games are a deal breaker. Being gaslighted, told that their perceptions or feelings are wrong when they're not, is deeply disturbing to an INFJ. In fact, INFJs list being gaslighted among their top triggers. This aligns with empathy research. Empathic people rely on their keen intuition to read emotions accurately, so having others twist reality shocks them. An INFJ will not tolerate having their sense of reality or their feelings belittled. They need mutual honesty and respect, not cunning manipulation. Any attempt to play mind games or distort the truth is immediately rejected. An INFJ's intuition and sensitivity are vital to their emotional well-being, and they fiercely protect them from anyone who tries to compromise their integrity. 9. One-sided relationships and lack of support. INFJs pour warmth and understanding into others' lives, but they have no patience for relationships that leave them depleted. If a friendship or partnership becomes chronically one-sided, if they constantly give but receive nothing, they refuse to stick around quietly. As noted above, insensitive people sometimes mistake INFJ empathy for weakness. Over time, this leads INFJs to feel drained and resentful. Research on empathetic helping suggests that without reciprocity, highly empathetic individuals experience personal distress. INFJs will not tolerate being ignored when they have a need. They value mutual care. In practical terms, an INFJ will step back or end relationships where they are the only one listening and supporting. They insist on emotional reciprocity or nothing at all. Their boundaries are unwavering in this regard. They must have a safe space to be themselves. 10. Coldness, apathy, or lack of empathy. Finally, INFJs refuse to tolerate apathy or emotional coldness in others. They're naturally warm and compassionate, so encountering someone who is uncaring or indifferent can feel jarring. Big Five research ties high agreeableness, a compassionate altruistic trait, directly to empathic concern. INFJs typically rate very high on such compassion. So if someone is dismissive of others' feelings, rude without remorse, or emotionally unavailable when it matters, an INFJ will quietly put distance between themselves. They cannot respect people who have no respect for others. Emotions. An INFJ's tolerance runs out at apathy. Cold, callous behavior that ignores basic kindness is intolerable. When met with this, the INFJ will swiftly and decisively end any connection. They refuse to tolerate anything that contradicts their values of compassion, honesty, and mutual care. In sum, every boundary on this list springs from the INFJ's core values: authenticity, empathy, and integrity. Psychologists note that INFJ's rare blend of intuition and feeling makes them champions of honesty and harmony. Understanding these limits isn't about complaining or fragility, it's about preserving a heartfelt inner world. INFJs themselves know that respecting these boundaries is essential to staying true to who they are, avoiding the exhaustion and resentment that can come from neglecting self-care.